and a veteran journalist, environmental journalist. She's Alice Templehoff. Thank you so much for joining us. She mostly covers environmental issues around water, land, especially, relating to poaching and conservation. Alice, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for the invitation, Gucci.
Oh,
it's very
finally
nice to
we
be
have
here.
you. Yeah, we tried last week to have you and we had issues, but I'm glad to have you now. So I'll quickly start by a quote I saw you posted. What is the big deal about taking a wild plant or animal out of nature to another part of the world? Some people don't see that as a big deal. So what's the big deal about that?
Do you mean trading with animals?
Yes. Animals and plants, taking them from their natural habitat and moving them to another area.
Yes, if we look at what's happening at the moment, animal trading is exactly the reason why we are having these lockdowns and COVID-19. Because we take animals, we trade with them, and South Africa is one of those countries that trade a lot with animals. And they have viruses and bacteria, and they take it with them to other countries where they don't have natural enemies. So what happens? It gets into humans. So there's no buffer where if you take an animal out of its natural environment. Trading with wildlife should stop. Because
could you come closer to your we can't hear you clearly, Elise. Could you come closer to your computer?
Must I come closer? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you better now.
Okay, good.
So I asked you, what is the big deal? For so many people, it's not a big deal. It's just, moving them to a different place, and they might be able to thrive in the place.
The problem is with did you hear what I said previously about trading with animals? That you take them out of their natural habitat, they take viruses with them, they go to other climate zones, and then there's no natural enemy. So in other words, you break the ecology. So what happens then is the host becomes the human body. And that's exactly what happens at the moment with COVID-19. It's taken from the virus, it was in a host or in the body of they say a bat, and then it becomes infectious in humans. So, and if, for instance, if you take an elephant, and the only reason why people trade with elephants is to put them in safari parks or in circuses or in a zoo. And these are all old-fashioned ideas that we should get away from.
But the question for some people, but you said they take them and move them basically for tourism. And then some others would ask you, so if we don't move them, how would someone, for example, in the US, see elephants or see some animals without traveling?
Then they must come to Africa. Then they should come to Africa, because you have to see them in their natural habitat. It's no good seeing them in a zoo or in a circus or in a safari park. I will never see a polar bear. But I have TV and I have Twitter and I see polar bears, social media, which is, why would even a panda bear, I will never be able to see a panda bear because I have no plans to go to China. So it's better to see this animal in its natural environment. And if you can't travel to a place, which is at the moment, we are all restricted by the corona lockdowns, so we can't travel. But we have these wonderful, wonderful TV programs where we can watch these animals. There's no one in the world that will be able to see all animals in the world. But you have to see the animal in its natural environment. Because if you take it out of its natural, sorry? If you take it out of its natural environment.
These days we have virtual tours. We have VR where people can actually.
Yes. If you take an animal out of its natural environment, it won't at all behave naturally. So what's the use? And it's cruel. It's cruel.
So at least let's talk about your work. You cover Southern Africa. What has resonated with you? What story have you told that you became so passionate about? It could be about mining in Namibia, in Botswana, you know, all of these stories from Africa. What story did you? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I lost you. Are you there?
I mean, what story? Can you hear me? I can.
Yes, the story at the moment that we are doing, environmental journalists, but unfortunately, there are very few of us left because it's hard, as you know, Putti. You know exactly what I'm talking about when I say it is very hard to be an environmental journalist because you seldom have good news stories to tell. It's usually about mining, and at the moment, it's about gas mining and fracking. Namibia is on the verge of fracking the Kavango River. Just today, our Minister of Environmental Affairs approved drilling in the ocean. So it's hard, and it's sometimes it feels like the environment's always losing. You know, it's as if everything just goes around money and not about the environment. I mean, if you have money, but you don't have an environment, what kind of life do you have? If you don't have nature, what kind of life do you have? What can you buy when everything is gone? I mean, it's an old Indian saying, if all the rivers are dry and all the trees are gone, it's not worth living then. So we're trying to protect biodiversity and because the whole thing with COVID-19 is because there is a break in the ecology. Biodiversity loss. We are living in this what do you call it, mass extinction, the sixth biggest mass extinction in the world, well, in our lifetime.
I'll take you back to the comment about environmental journalists and that just about a few of us are left, you know, on the planet. We are also critically endangered, you know. Some people don't understand the danger of environmental journalism. But before then, I'd like to say hello to everyone who's joined us. We have so many people joining us. Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Beachin34, Guy Ovedia. Thank you, The Authentic Lean, IPOP the Netherlands, Queen FR. Thank you very much. So I'd like to ask you, how dangerous is the work of an environmental journalist? Give us the figures. We know hundreds of environmental journalists have been killed, you know, so far.
How many? I mean, can you imagine how many environmental journalists have been killed? Okay, we get threats. We get yes, people put red flags. They try to, you know, sort of belittle you. They, especially with trophy hunting. There's a huge issue about trophy hunting and lion bone trade and lion farms. canned line hunting and line farming in South Africa. So they try to sort of, make you as if you don't know what you're talking about. You take people's livelihoods from them, but people don't understand. It's a hard job. It's a very hard job. I know of many activists who died in the firing line in South Africa, especially where they are against mining in their areas. Yes, it's a hard job.
It's a hard job.
But it's very necessary that we do it so that people will understand we are not working for this generation. We are working for the next generation. I don't know whether you agree with me.
Yes.
But
yes, I agree
the planet is on fire. The planet is on fire. And we can't go on like we are living at the moment. My whole issue with environmental journalism is to empower people with knowledge and to change their lifestyles. Industrial animal farming. I mean, we are in a huge drive at the moment in South Africa for Operation Petition. And Operation Petition is exactly what it says. Hurry up. Hurry up. Gas mining, drilling in this ocean, on land, and oil for oil, and I mean it's energy. But we as people should consume less. We should try and make our footprint as small as possible. Left the plastic bag at the shop because plastic drives oil and gas. You need oil and gas mining to make a plastic bag. If people can just connect the dots. So yes, it's a huge issue. It's a huge job to be an environmental journalist, and you need a lot of time. There are people who say, the thing is you can't rush. Your stories can stand over, but you need to do a lot of research. So yes, a lot of research, and you have to get all the sides of the story. But in the end, you know that there are certain things that are wrong. Like there's a huge drive to end trophy hunting at the moment, to close down the line farms in South Africa. And now we have this gas train that started in the Okavango in Namibia. It started in the Okavango River, or it's about to start. People are trying to stop it. So I think people should all understand that we need to be connected to nature. If we don't fight, nobody else will. We have to look at ourselves. I'm just the messenger. You're just the messenger. But if people don't listen, what can you do? There's a lot of frustration also in our job. Yes, people just, sometimes they just ignore the signals and the signs. We call it, I can't remember the word. It's wait a minute, I just want to see on my Twitter account, what did I say?
We have climate deniers, we have those.
Yeah, like deniers, willful ignorance. You don't want to make the connection between that which is on your plate and that goes into your mouth. You don't want to make that, you don't want to connect what's on your plate from where it comes from and how it got onto your plate.
Elise, I would ask you about your petition to stop the plans to drill and frag in the Okavango Delta, which has about 9,700 signatures so far. Just a few signatures short of 10,000.
62. 65,000.
Oh wow!
No, they went.
Tell us about this.
No, that's the latest figure. I didn't look today, but I think it was 62,000, which is quite a lot because people really care for the Okavango. And if you drill in the Okavango River,
tell us about the Okavango. Some people don't know about this Okavango Delta. Tell us what is so special about this place.
I've never been there. I've never been there because it's very expensive to go there. But it's a vast, vast delta, inland delta, delta inside the, and I think it's the only one in the world where there's an inland delta. And it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Yes, and it's thriving with wildlife, with elephants, and it's sort of pristine still. If you can imagine a pristine area on the planet, there are very few places. I think is it the Galapagos is probably still pristine, but this place is just absolutely amazing. And if you drill for oil and gas in the catchment of this Okavango Delta, then you will poison the whole area, the whole ecosystem will be poisoned. And the seismic the drills, and it will just, I mean, where are the animals going to? It's the noise, just the noise pollution and the water pollution, because this place is all about water and wetlands. And it's an amazing place. If you can go to Google Earth, all the people that are listening in, it's an amazing place. I've never been there. I'd love to go there. But, I mean, if it's getting destroyed now, we won't be able to go there and see these wonderful animals in their natural habitat. And these animals will probably die out because the water is going to be polluted. And it's not only the animals, it's also about the people who stay there. There are ancient people who stay on the banks of the Okavango River and along the delta. And the San, I don't know whether you know the San people. They are the first inhabitants of Africa, well, of southern Africa at least. The first inhabitants. And they stay there, and they are also endangered, just like the animals who are there. And they're all endangered. The elephants are all endangered. So this is the last stronghold in Africa.
Okay, Elise.
So I don't know whether I make myself clear, but it's very, and it's all about our consumerism. It's all about, I mean, people are not going to benefit from this oil and gas drilling in the Okavango.
So do you think that... Do you think that those who say leave the oil in the soil, do you think you're correct?
Yes. I mean, I can just tell you something, that my environmental journalism started with a story in Nigeria with Shell. And in the Delta, I mean, it was so shocking. It just triggered, and I just decided, I think that was in 2005, I decided that this is what I want to do. I want to write about this, about people who are being driven off their land by big companies and by governments. Our governments are not our friends, that's for sure. Well, not in South Africa at least. I don't know about Nigeria, but I doubt.
Yeah. But do you think we're winning this war? We see the multinationals, they are even at major conferences, the politics is there, they are delaying the negotiations, Are we winning this war? Are we ever going to win this war? These are powerful people.
You know what? If I think we're not going to win this war, then I would stop today. And if I sometimes think we won't win the war, but I think that if somebody in 20 or 30 years, 40 years, go back into history they will see that there were people who were fighting for you. If I just think about the gold mining in South Africa, it is shocking to see how our country has been plundered by big companies. We sit with assets wine water at the moment. And the gold that was taken out is in Britain. So, I mean, and we sit with the legacies. We sit with the acid water. We sit with the old gold mines. We sit with the people who are ill, who have silicosis. So, connecting the dots all the time. Very important. So it's important that these things come out, that we know why do we have this legacy? What happened? So we dig and dig and dig and we write it down. So I feel, if we don't win the war, at least the next generation and the next generation will know that, it is on black and white, or it's on a video, or on a television station. They can go to the archives and see that we've fought for them.
Yeah, that's really deep.
I sound like an activist. I'm not. I'm a journalist.
In Ghana, it's also happening in Ghana. The gold mining in Ghana, in Nigeria, it's happening across Africa. And I would ask you, Elise, do you think there is another scramble for Africa going on?
There's another scramble, definitely. Now it's oil and gas. Absolutely. Africa's been ripped apart. Africa's been plundered. And the people out there, whoever plunders, think that Africa's people don't understand this. They do. They are the biggest activists. And it's our governments that don't listen to us or to the people.
Africans are fighting and voicing.
And poorer. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just said that Africa is getting poorer and poorer, but Africa has all the rich minerals that's left in the world. But Africa doesn't get the benefit. Africa doesn't benefit from all this. In fact, the people are getting poorer and poorer.
And someone across thousands of miles away is getting richer and richer. I mean, having the good life out of the suffering of others.
Yes.
It really hurts to think about it.
Look away and have a good life. But I say again, you have a good life. But what is a good life? A good life is when you hear birds in the morning sing, when you have clean water, when you have clean air, when you have biodiversity, when you have fresh food, not polluted by coal mining and coal-fired power stations, which we have ample of in South Africa. So it's a big battle, but it's a battle that's I mean, it's not just the environmental journalists. We have wonderful NGOs in South Africa who are vigorously fighting for a better life for everybody. Vigorously.
That's why some people are advocating that we change the indices of measuring, development. It shouldn't be financial. It should be about, happiness. What's the happiness index?
Happiness.
What's the
quality of life?
Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, money can't buy that. But that's why, we just keep on fighting. And people sometimes say, I'm an activist, but I mean, I'm a journalist. But you have to be some kind of trying to create change, to bring change in behaviors, in people's minds, to see what happiness really is. I mean,
sometimes you need to try to find that balance between activism and journalism, which sometimes is really hard. It's very hard sometimes. When
absolutely, it's the biggest struggle you can imagine. But what you do is you stand back and you get both sides, 3 sides or 4 sides of the story. You try that. But now on Twitter, it's not always that easy. Because,
but at the end of the day, the truth is what's the most important. What's the truth?
The truth. What is the truth? What is trophy hunting? Is it about conservation or is it about ego and money? What is the truth? Canned lions, our lion farms, it's not about conservation. They can tell you it's about conservation. But those lions, their DNAs is compromised because they're inbreeding in it. So what is the conservation behind that? It's not conservation. So you must find the truth. And if you have the truth, you have to take a stand.
I would quickly also say hello to those who have now joined us. Heavenly Dew, thank you. Mark Goldman, Sharon's Vlogs, Disease Gel, thank you very much for joining us. And Finbar, Lisa, thank you so much. Finbar from Toronto. Your president, South African president, allegedly has a secret trophy hunting investment. That's according to
yes, but he denies it vigorously. Denies it. And because he would say that trophy hunting is not, it's not illegal in South Africa, but it's a stream, it's an income stream. I mean, if people are blinded by money, he also has apparently a stake in Burger King. And if you look at Burger King and you go down the line and you go to Brazil and you see that forests there are being destroyed for the food, the soybeans, is it the soybeans? Yeah, for the industry, for the cattle industry. So yes, it's you have to connect the dots. You have to go and dig. It's not always that easy. We want to know that if you want to talk now, recently today, I heard that our minister, who is the custodian, who is supposed to look after our environment, approved oil and gas drilling in the Indian Ocean. And there were so many appeals against this application, and she just dismissed it. So we need to know why did she dismiss it. It's a migration route of whales. What about fisherfolk? Small fisherfolk. I got a friend of mine who's on one of these trawlers at the moment. She's an observer. She is traumatized by what she sees. She says that she sent me a WhatsApp once. She said to me, while we are in close communication, she said, of the 4 tons of fish that are being caught by the big trawlers in the sea, 3 tons are bycatch. And they just throw it overboard. Most of it dies. It's shocking. But she takes photographs and she's going to, I hope so, expose it. But I don't want to talk about it now. Because those observers, their lives are also endangered. They just throw them overboard.
It's quite sad.
The world out there is not a very nice place, got you. The world out there.
How did you feel when you heard about the oil pollution in Mauritius?
Oh, it was absolutely terrible. Terrible. And the thing is, I have a relative who stays in Mauritius. And I mean, what happened to that story? What happened to that captain of that boat? What happened to him? It's like all communication between the outside world and Mauritius, the Mauritian government, just stopped. And there are so many things happening that, you focus on this, you focus on that, you focus on that. So then something just disappears, and there's no time to go back. So I think during these festive time, I'm going to just, go back, because that's what environmental journalists must do. They must go back and see and do follow-ups all the time, and see what's happening, even if it's not a story, so that these people can know that they are being watched. I think pressure groups are also quite, I hope so. Petitions, I don't know, everywhere is a petition. I don't know whether governments listen to petitions, but what is democracy all about? You have to listen to your people. But yes, it's not a job, it's a passion.
We have so many stories and so many events and so many tragedies that journalists can't even keep up, because everything has an environmental angle to it.
Absolutely. Everything. The environment underpins every single beat journalists work on. Every single beat. Politics, especially. Economics, financial journalism. Everything is being underpinned by the environment. So yes.
You think that journalists... Go ahead.
People should become involved and support, because it's about their planet. We only have this one house. We don't have planet B. And climate change is a huge issue. Huge. Being exaggerated, what is the word? Making worse. By it's made worse by exaggerated. What is the word? But in any case, by oil and gas drilling and coal mining. We are still having huge coal mines in South Africa, and they are expanding. And most of the coal is being exported. So many countries export their footprint to African countries. But that's also a huge theme for conversations, because it's like in the climate negotiations and things. If I come back to South Africa signed the Paris Agreement, but we still mine coal. We still drill for oil and gas. How does it work? Doesn't make sense. So what is the value of the flaring gas?
I said Nigeria is still flaring gas, and we also signed the agreement.
Yeah. But now what is very encouraging is that Milieu Defense, I don't know whether you know about it, is taking Shell. They are in court at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm following up that story till there's an outcome, and let's see what happens. You get these, and those people are the people that, these NGOs are the people that encourage you to just go on and on and on. But you need a lot of energy.
Yeah. Elise, do you think environmental journalists focus these days a lot more on climate change and not so much on wildlife conservation? This is like climate change is very popular. It's the buzzword.
Yeah. But the thing is, it goes hand in hand. Biodiversity and climate change goes hand in hand. So the vanishing wildlife is probably trophy hunting and climate change, and population growth, population that encroaches on these animals' habitat. They have nowhere to go. Like the elephants, they need migration routes. They can't be beneath or behind fences.
The web of life.
They break fences, and then you have this conflict between people and wildlife. So,
they're all interconnected. Yeah, they're all interconnected. We saw the picture of the elephants that were hit, you know, at a mining site recently. You also tweeted about that.
Did you see that collision?
Yeah, sorry.
No, it doesn't. It can't coexist. You just can't. And some government officials don't understand it. And they give out mining licenses, and they don't listen to people and to the electorate. They don't listen to them. And it's all about money. We come back to money. And but some other
Lisa,
time, I believe more.
I'd like to ask you, what would you say to a young person who is interested in becoming an environmental journalist?
Okay, can I tell you?
How could they start?
If you want to have a long and happy life, don't become an environmental journalist.
Did you say that?
Yes, but if it's your passion, it must be a passion, because you go through trauma, you go through post-traumatic stress, you go through many emotions. But if it's your passion, it must be your passion. Otherwise, don't do it.
That's
you know
strong.
that. Yes, if you, that's why we also feel. I mean, I think in South Africa we are about 3 or 4 environmental journalists who only specialize in environment. So, because I mean, newsrooms are shrinking.
Yeah.
And people do politics, and they do coronavirus, and then they forget about the basics of where does this thing come from? Where does it come from? It comes from, it's an environmental emergency. And I try to tweet it, so that people don't forget, because there are so many other stories around COVID-19. But in the end, it is an environmental emergency. It's a crisis, and that's what started COVID-19.
That's true.
And it's nature hitting back.
I totally agree with you. Do you think that naming animals and making them individuals, like, would stop trophy hunting or stop poachers from killing these animals that have a name, they have an identity? Do you agree with that?
No. I think if you want to stop, for instance, rhino poaching, then you should go to the country, the consumer country, and try to influence them that they are being taken for a ride, because it's like fingernails. It's not medicine. And trophy hunting is just, I think there is just a big drive, lots of pressure to have stopped. Because, I mean, why do you take out the animal with the biggest horns, with the biggest tusks? Why? It is not conservation. How can it be conservation? If you look in South Africa, for instance, we have a nature reserve in the southern part of our country, Addo Elephant Park. Now, those elephants, it is so interesting that those elephants have tiny tusks, and it is because of trophy hunting and poaching. The genes were taken out of these populations, so they don't have big tusks. I don't know whether you knew about this.
Yeah.
How many people know about it?
Not a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but it's their genes they have tiny tusks because the
The
genes
genes
have
have been
been wiped out.
altered.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad, Elise. Before we round off, you've done this for more than 20 years, since 2005. Is it getting easier? How do you start your day? How do you plan a story? How do you, plan a story? What do you do to
Well, I must
start a
tell
story
you
and
that
finish the story? How do you manage your job?
I must tell you that I worked very hard to establish a network. So I am on so many WhatsApp groups, and people tell me all the time. There was an oil spill the other day in the Billow River in Durban. It's a Queenie, and I'm on this WhatsApp group, and these people tell me, listen, this and this and this happens. So I have networks all around the country, and well, I mean, social media is another way of getting all this information. People publish on Facebook. I'm not a very big fan of Facebook because it's very sort of cluttered and you don't always know what to look for or look behind all the personal stuff, for the real newsworthy stuff. But Twitter is a very, very good place where people post stuff. And, well, I mean, eyes on the ground. People have eyes on the ground. And then I start asking questions. I start early in the morning. Fortunately, I work for the newspaper still, so I have a deadline, I say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so I can still, research the story. But I sometimes feel very frustrated because I can't get down to doing a lot of research because there are so many things happening at the moment. Then you park a story and you do something else and you forget about the parked story. So I think it's maybe time to, especially this year that we have, to just sit down and just look back and see all the stories that need attention, and yeah. And I get lots of emails, and very many of those emails are greenwash.
Yeah.
So, people want to get sort of publicity. And you have to have a very sort of good eye to see, wow, this is something that needs research because,
Yeah.
this is just, I don't just work from text statements. I will, for instance, work from research, like Nature, published stuff in Nature, articles in Nature, in Science Daily, and those, So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of places where you can get these stories.
Yes.
So I started about
Definitely.
8. Yeah, and then I must decide, which story is the story that I'm going to do, or the stories that I'm going to do. And the story that I'm working on at the moment is the story of the minister who gave Sasol and some Italian company the go-ahead to drill in the Indian Ocean.
I'll look out
So
for that story.
that I'm researching at the moment. And I'm giving myself 2 days to do the story, 2 or 3 days. And I started working on the story today. And yes, I will probably write it on, not Thursday because we don't have a paper on Friday, but on Wednesday or even on Sunday or Monday's paper. But it has to be researched.
Yeah. We look forward to reading that story and many more of the stories that you pursue, and we're so proud of you. We're so proud of what you do. when I met you in 2016 in Morocco.
Yeah, we met there, and it was such an amazing event, and it was wonderful. I know that you are an award-winning journalist, so I feel very honoured to be interviewed by you. Thank you very, very much. And yes, we just have to support one another.
Mm-hmm. We have to.
And have a blessed festive season. And I hope 2021 is much better than the year that we had. But it was also a wake-up call. I think 2020 was a wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it in a positive way.
To rethink everything, rethink production, consumption. I hope.
Yes.
I really hope. Yeah.
Yes, and people can just, again, connect the dots. Why did COVID-19 happen? Consumption, animal trade in animals, industrial farming. I mean, all these pigs. If you see the piggeries in the eastern countries, it's no wonder there are viruses and stuff that creep out there and attack people. I mean, they have these pigs in 3, 4, 5-story buildings where they keep them. And it's just so unnatural.
So unnatural.
Thank you very
much. Thank you so much, Elise. And have a wonderful evening. And thanks to everyone who joined us.
And eventually we got it right to have this interview.
Yeah, eventually we got this right. Thanks to you, son.
And all the very best to your workers now. The wonderful work that you do.
Yeah, I wish you the best as well. Thank you, son.
And goodbye to everybody else. Bye-bye.
Bye.